Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here at the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you with the third and final installment of the mail haul slash book haul that I got from Todd at Todd's Bursting Bookcase. He sent me just a load of books, some really awesome titles. I don't have any of these. That's what's maybe most exciting, is it's all new stuff, and I'm just tickled to have them. And thank you, Todd. Thank you for sending these, and I really appreciate it. Some great titles, and so I just wanted BookTube. I wanted to share these with you, and yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first book in the stack, and it's one of the ones that I'm most excited about. I'm pretty happy with this. It's General and Madame de Lafayette, Partners in Liberty's Cause in the American and French Revolutions by Jason Lane. And I thought that was a pretty cool cover there. I'm a fan of American history. I love American Revolution, and so Lafayette was one of those key figures in the Revolution. So yeah, it was good to get this. The end papers on this book got a nice little map on them. That's kind of cool. Map of Europe. Let's see the back. Yep, back's the same. So this is a Taylor Trade Publishing, Lanham, New York, Toronto, and Oxford, and it is a 2003 book. Let's see, yeah, it's got some black and white photos in the middle, and pretty excited about this. Let me read the cover to you. This biography of French liberator Gilbert du Motier, Marquis de Lafayette, reveals not only how the 19-year-old bravely ventured to the infant United States to serve in its War of Independence, but also the iconoclast's enormous contributions to the causes of social and economic justice in France, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Poland. The Marquis, born Adriana de Knowles, shared the same controversial beliefs as her husband, supporting and defending him wholeheartedly despite ongoing political persecution, including the Marquis's exile in Austrian dungeon and her own imprisonment and near execution by French radicals. Over the course of his 6-decade-long unremitting crusade for liberty, the Marquis vigorously rallied for causes including the abolition of slavery, civil rights, free trade, free universal education, freedom of the press, penal reform, religious freedom, and suffrage for the common man. Yet generations of historians have written him off as politically inept and pettily ambitious. Incorporating years of original research, General and Madame de Lafayette vehemently refutes this too long entrenched valuation by thoroughly reassessing the Marquis's life and career and illustrating his indispensable role at the center of the greatest movement of the 18th and 19th centuries, the Liberal Revolution. Although the Lafayettes did not succeed in obtaining for France all the Republican institutions they were seeking, their efforts provided an indelible foundation for the eventual triumph of liberty in all of Europe. Employing a sweeping, classical feel and visiting landscapes including the magnificent court at Versailles and the brutal hardship of Valley Forge, the momentous storming of the Bastille, Lane chronicles and celebrates the couple's passionate yet tumultuous relationship while documenting the birth of America, 2 French revolutions, and the Napoleonic era. Yeah, so that's going to be an exciting read, BookTube. That's going to be good stuff. Lafayette's a pretty interesting character. Donated a lot of money to the American cause. You know, no strings attached, just gave it to us. And of course, he was like the son that Washington never had, and Washington was like the father that Lafayette lost at an early age. So it'll be neat to look at that. I'm excited about that. So the next book in the stack is How Far From Austerlitz, Napoleon, 1805 to 1815 by Alistair Horn. And I have not read anything on the Napoleonic Wars, so this is going to be all brand new stuff for me. I'm pretty excited about that. I teach a little bit about it, but I don't have a whole lot. That's the end papers there. I don't have a whole lot of stories just because I haven't read on it. So this comes from St. Martin's Press out of New York. It is a 1996 book. So, oh, and it's got some, oh man, look at this. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's got these paintings from the time period. Absolutely beautiful stuff. So here's some more paintings. So it says, the Battle of Austerlitz was Napoleon's greatest victory, the culmination of one of the greatest military campaigns of all time. It was also the last battle the father of modern warfare would leave in absolute triumph. For though he did not know it, Austerlitz marked the beginning of Napoleon's downfall. His triumph was too complete and his conquest too brutal to last. Like Hitler, he came to believe he was invincible, that no force could halt his bloody march across Europe. Like Hitler, he paid dearly for his hubris, climaxing in bitter defeat at Waterloo in 1812. In a matter of years, he had fallen from grace. Alistair Horn, described by C.P. Snow as one of the best writers of history in the English-speaking world, explores the theme of military success and failure. He brilliantly chronicles Napoleon's rise and fall, drawing parallels with other great leaders of the modern era. Masterfully written and illustrated, How Far From Austerlitz is an important book and an invaluable addition to any library. Yeah, so it's definitely invaluable to mine. I'm going to learn quite a bit of new stuff in that, so I'm excited about that. Next book, Operation Valuable Fiend, the CIA's first paramilitary strike against the Iron Curtain by Albert Lelouch. Show you that book there. And this is a 2014 book from Arcade Publishing out of New York. And front cover on this one says, in 1949, a newly minted branch of the CIA, flush with money and determined to roll back the Iron Curtain, embarked on the first paramilitary operation in the history of the agency. They hatched an elaborate plan, coordinated with the British Secret Intelligence Service, to spark an uprising and detach Albania, the weakest of the Soviet satellites in Europe, from Moscow's orbit. The operation, called Valuable Fiend, resulted in dismal failure and was shut down by 1954. In his groundbreaking book, Albert Lelouch gives the first full accounting of the CIA action based on hundreds of declassified documents, memoirs, and recollections of key participants, including Albanian exiles recruited for missions in their communist opponents. Up till now, the story of the operation has been obfuscated and even distorted. Some blame the Soviet mole Kim Philby for sabotaging it, and the CIA memoirs were heavily sanitized. Narrating the heady early days of the operation, Lelouch recaptures its promise, the zeal of the planners, and the courage of the Albanian patriots who risked and often gave their lives on clandestine missions. He also documents the range of factors that led to its failure, from inexperienced CIA case officers outsmarted in spy versus spy games by their ruthless Stalinist opponents to intra-branch rivalries within the CIA and conflicts and lax security among the exile groups. Yet Operation Valuable Fiend was also the proving ground for techniques used in the CIA paramilitary actions involving some of the same agency operatives, including the successful coup d'etat in Iran and Guatemala and the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. And so that'll be interesting. I know nothing in this area of history. Next one on the stack is Aaronsons Maps, the untold story of the man who might have created peace in the Middle East by Patricia Goldstone. That sounds interesting. There's that. This is a Harcourt Incorporated, Orlando, out of Orlando, 2007. So this is, the front cover says, scientist, diplomat, and spy Aronson, hopefully I'm saying that right, was one of the most extraordinary figures in the early struggle to create a homeland for the Jews. Born to Jewish settlers in Palestine, he ran a network of spies during World War I with his sister Sarah that enabled the British to capture Jerusalem and made Aaron T.E. Lawrence's rival in an astonishing triangle. There's evidence that beautiful, rebellious Sarah, who died tragically in 1917, was the only woman Lawrence ever loved. A rugged adventurer, Aronson became convinced during his explorations of the Middle East that water would govern the region's fate. He compiled both the area's first detailed water maps and a plan for Palestine's national borders that predicted, and in its insistence on partnership between the Arabs and Jews, might have prevented the decades of conflict to come. If Aaron had lived to carry out his vision, the course of modern history might have been very different. But the taste for power that drew Aaron from science to politics led to his premature and mysterious death in 1919. His maps were lost, his library destroyed, and his story obscured. A history that speaks directly to the present, Aaronsons Maps reveals for the first time Aaronson's key role in establishing Israel and enduring importance of Aaronsons Maps in Middle Eastern politics today. So pretty cool stuff. Got some photos in the middle, some black and whites. Pretty neat stuff. More photos. So that'll be an interesting read. Next one is, what if the world's foremost military historians imagine what might have been? And so several essays in here, essays by Stephen Ambrose, John Keegan, David McCullough, James McPherson, and others. And so a bunch of what if stories. That'd be kind of neat. This is a, that's a really cool end paper. It's got G.P. Putnam's Sons out of New York, and this is a 1999 book. And I think it looks like, if I look through the table of contents, it's various what-if cases all through history. It isn't just one area. I mean, it goes clear from 701 BC to clear up to 1946. So a lot of good stuff in there. Here's another one of the books that I'm most excited about. The Trigger, Hunting the Assassin Who Brought the World to War by Tim Butcher. Look at that cover. Isn't that cool? That is a really neat cover, I think. And so this is a Grove Press out of New York 2014 book. And of course I teach a pretty good sized World War I unit. And so this would go like perfect when I talk about the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So it says, on a summer morning in Sarajevo, 100 years ago, a teenager took a pistol out of his pocket and fired not just the opening rounds of the First World War, but the starting gun for modern history. By killing Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Gavrilo Princip started a cycle of events that would leave 15 million dead from fighting between 1914 and 1918, and prove fatal for empires and a way of ruling that had held for centuries. The Trigger tells the story of a young man who changed the world forever. It focuses on the drama, on the incident itself, by following Princip's journey. Journalist, author, and best-selling Blood River, Tim Butcher retraces Princip's steps from the feudal frontier village of his birth through the mountains of the northern Balkans to the great plain city of Belgrade and ultimately Sarajevo. He visits the ruins of Princip's childhood home, talks with his surviving relatives, and locates school records that have gone previously untouched, all the while illuminating our understanding of Princip, the person and the place that shaped him, and making discoveries that have eluded historians for 100 years. Traveling through the Balkans and drawing on his own experiences there as a war reporter during the 1990s, Butcher unravels this complex part of the world and its conflicts, showing how the events that were sparked that day in June 1914 still have influence today. Published on the centenary of the assassination, The Trigger is a rich, timely work, part travelogue, part reportage, and part history. So I am really looking forward to that. Like I said, I really love that cover. I think that's pretty neat looking, but that'll be really good. All right, BookTube. The next book in the stack is Bader Meinhof, The Inside Story of the RAF. And so this is by Stephen Aust and translated by Anthea Bell. Where's that ball? Nope, Bell. Anthea Bell. Pretty excited about that. It's going to be brand new stuff for me. Not familiar with it. It's from Oxford University Press, and it is a 2008 book. And it says the Bader Meinhof group, later known as the Red Army faction, was a violent urban guerrilla group that terrorized Germany in the 1970s and 80s, killing more than 30 people, wounding 93, and taking 162 hostages, and robbing 35 banks, all in an attempt to bring revolution to the Federal Republic. Originally published in Germany in 1985, Stephen Aust's fascinating history of the group captures the complex story of a few young, idealistic Vietnam War protesters who became the masterminds behind a decades-long campaign of liberation. Marked by bombings, kidnapping, and murder, paralyzing a nation and holding the world at attention, RAF violence culminated in the German autumn of 1977 with the kidnap and murder of a top German official and the hijacking of the Lufthansa passenger jet. Much new evidence has surfaced since the mass suicide of the group's key leaders in the 1980s. Some RAF members have come forward to testify in new investigations, and formally classified Stasi documents have been made public since the fall of the Berlin Wall, all contributing to a fuller picture of the RAF and the events surrounding their demise, incorporating all the new information, numerous photos, elusive interviews with RAF members, and careful research. With this new edition completes the history of the RAF from its creation in 1970 to its breakup in 1998. Terrorism today is never far from people's thoughts. Bader Meinhof offers a gripping account of one of the most violent terrorist groups of the late 20th century, and a compelling look at what they did, why they did it, and how they were brought to justice. And so this is a new subject for me, like most of these other ones. You got lots of black and white pictures in the middle here. Good stuff. Not good stuff what you're seeing, but good stuff for the book anyway, helping to tell the story. So anyway, another new subject for me. Here's another book, Citizens of London, The Americans Who Stood with Britain in Its Darkest, Finest Hour. And it's by Lynn Olson. So that's a new title for me. I hadn't heard of this book. And it is, let's see here, from Random House, and it is a 2010 book. And again, this one has lots of photos in the middle to look at. It says, in Citizens of London, Lynn Olson has written a work of World War II history even more relevant and revealing than her acclaimed Troublesome Young Men. Here's the behind-the-scenes story of how the United States forged its wartime alliance with Britain, told from the perspective of three key American players in London, Edward Murrow, Averell Harriman, and John Gilbert Winnett. Drawing from a variety of primary sources, Olson skillfully depicts the dramatic personal journeys of these men who, determined to save Britain from Hitler, helped convince cautious Franklin Roosevelt and a reluctant American public to support the British at a critical time. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you kind of get the idea of what that book's going to be about. Getting the Americans to side with Britain during World War II. So, good stuff. Next one in the stack here, and these will be the last two books. The Transfer Agreement, The Dramatic Story of the Pact Between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine by Edwin Black. And so, sorry about the glare there. Another piece of World War II history. This is a Brookline Books from 1999 was this printing. Kind of some small print and over 400 pages. So looks like that'll be a dense read. Transfer Agreement is the stunning and compassionate account of the deal with the devil that saved 60,000 Jews from the Holocaust. The deal was made in desperation in 1933 between the Jewish leadership in Palestine and the Third Reich. The terms that the Jewish-led boycott of German good would cease in return for the transfer of German Jews to the Holy Land. Eventually, 1/10 of Germany's Jews were saved, thus helping to form the seedbed of modern Israel. Edwin Black reveals for the first time the inside details of the controversial pact and recreates the drama, the personalities, the cliffhanger negotiations, and the anguish of world Jewry over their choice. And Black does more. He provides a true understanding of Israel's founding and heartbreaking realities of the Jews' plight in Hitler's Europe. The transfer agreement presents certain truths that have long eluded historians, the financial nexus that served Hitler's obsession with expelling the Jews as an essential prelude to conquering Europe, together with the Zionists' resolve to bring their dispossessed people to Palestine. The American Jewish involvement is of special interest as the author reconstructs the magnitude of the pro- and anti-boycott meetings and the passion invested in them. The author spent 5 years on 3 continents researching and writing this work. He was aided by a team of translators and researchers who unearthed previously suppressed and widely dispersed documents and archives, already acclaimed by a dozen diverse experts, the Holocaust scholars. The transfer agreement was described by Dr. Sybil Milton of the Simon Wiesenthal Center as a spellbinding, exciting book. Edwin Black has given us a work of history that will make history. So that'll be good and interesting. And here we are, BookTube, the last book in this 3-part mail haul / book haul from Todd at the Bursting Bookcase, Todd's Bursting Bookcase. And this one is another one of the ones I think is going to be one of the best in the whole bunch, one of the ones I'm most excited about. And this is 3 German invasions of France, the summer campaigns of 1870, 1914, and 1940 by Douglas Firmer. And that is a really cool cover, I think. I really like that. I think that's pretty neat. And this is from Pen and Sword, and it is a 2013 book. And I'll go ahead and read this cover to you. And again, this will be the last one. This has got pictures, black and whites, through the middle of it. Oh, that's really cool. Look at that picture. That's neat. All right, so tensions and rivalry between France and Germany shaped the history of Western Europe in the century from 1860. 3 times that hostility led to war in the invasion of France in 1870, 1914, and 1940. The outcomes of the battles that followed reset the balance of power across the continent, yet the German invasions tend to be viewed as separate events in isolation rather than as connected episodes in the confrontation between the 2 nations. Douglas Firmer's fresh account of the military campaigns and the preparations for them treats them as a part of a cycle of fear, suspicion, animosity, and conflicting ambitions, extending across several generations. In a clear, concise account of the decisive opening phase of each campaign, he describes the critical decision-making and the maneuvers and clashes of arms in eastern France as German forces advanced westwards. As the 100th anniversary of the start of the Great War approaches, this is a fitting moment to reconsider these momentous events and how they fit into the broad sweep of European history. So, BookTube, I'm real excited about all these books. He's given me enough to read for about 2 years, but I'm still excited about it. I'm looking forward to reading all of these. Feel free to tell me what you think down in the comments section. Would love to know if you've read any of these, what you think of them. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you watching the whole film. And until next time, BookTube, happy reading.